Nation, we're back.
Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
One boom, one time.
I'm so proud of you. We finally got it. 5 years, 6 years.
Many, many years, and now I can handle that one sound effect. Hey, Megan, how you doing?
I'm all right. I think I know that fall is here. I think in Texas, we can't determine fall by weather or the coolness or crispness in the air. But I always know when fall is here when ragweed and mold goes absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's what's been killing me for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I apologize if it finally caught up with me, if I sound like a frog, or I will do my best to mute. But yeah, man, my throat is absolutely killing me. Thanks, ragweed. Thanks, mold.
Yeah, I had the mold problem. No, we're good. Everything's good. Just, we're busy here. We have a little bit of downer news. Nadia has to have surgery on her ankle. Yeah, so she'll be back. It's kind of tough because it's senior year.
Yeah.
And she's going to be sidelined for another few months. So, but the sooner you get taken care of, the sooner you can heal and the sooner you can get back. So that's what we're dealing with today. And then tomorrow we leave for England tomorrow night for the Rugby World Cup. So that'll be fun. Exciting.
And the
Rugby World birthday.
Cup. And there you go.
Yes, and my birthday. Yeah, also it's my birthday. On Saturday is my birthday, so that'll be fun. We'll just take it day by day. So next week, instead of going to an official visit for one of the schools that's recruiting her for rugby, she's staying home and getting surgery on her ankle. So we'll have to go visit that school another time.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's not the news she wanted, but we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and at the very least, you guys have a plan. And she's going to start healing quicker, right? Because this is something that has to happen anyway. So, get her healed up quick.
And then constant pain in a boot. So, gotta fix it. One of the more aggressive options was to do cadaver bone in her body. And she's like, yeah, that's dope. Let's do that. I'm like, no, that's way down the road. If all these other things don't work, then you got to go that aggressive. But anyway, no, it's all good. Megan, we have a lot to talk about tonight.
We do.
Yeah. So the coolest thing is we now know who we're going to play for the next 4 years after this year. So we'll talk about that. SEC, not only did they release the who the 3 little rivalries or your regulars are going to be for each team. Texas got their 3, of course. Arkansas, OU, Sooners makes sense. We'll talk about that. But they put out the SEC schedule for the next few years for Texas and everyone. But we'll talk about Texas. Texas volleyball on right now, off to a hot start this season. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Sam Houston State and about the confidence that they took from that game going forward into the bye week and into SEC schedule. It gets real now, and it all counts now, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a little Manning moment. He was doing some charity work. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, we have to talk about last week's craziness and the impact of some of these huge injuries and big games and upsets, college football. So we'll look at the new top 25, talk about some of the big highlights of the games. We'll make our fun predictions for this coming week. Girl, there's so many games of undefeated teams this coming weekend. People are going to be no longer undefeated after this weekend. And then a couple of fun stories to finish the night.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah,
Also, I got to shout out to CB, man. Thanks for joining us. We always appreciate you being right there with us, day one listener. So we appreciate you, CB. So, Rocky, let's jump into it. I mean, new SEC schedule is out. I want to talk rivalries a little bit, right? I think in today's day and age, that word gets thrown around maybe a little too much. Or maybe I'm just overly sensitive to it because I'm a Texas fan and everybody thinks they're Texas's rival. And we do not feel that way about others. But I think in the spirit of this conversation, the SEC released the annual opponents, right? They didn't use the word rival. They used annual opponents, but some good old rivalries coming back. Let's start with Texas, right? How do you feel about it? Texas gets, of course, A&M, Arkansas, and OU. How do you feel about that slate of annual opponents?
I feel that's perfect because those are historically our biggest rivals. They're the teams that we have the most history with. They're the ones that we compete. At least right now, I'll put this up. We compete the most with, A&M for recruits. Oklahoma for a while, but now it seems like they're going different places for recruits. They don't need no 5 stars. But I was surprised when we say Arkansas, A&M, and OU for Texas. That's also the same for Missouri. What did you think about that? The same Arkansas, A&M, and OU are the same for Missouri.
Yeah, that's a little weird. The only thing I could really think of is like Missouri was kind of the leftover, right? And they're in a weird place regionally. They're kind of an outlier. I mean, I suppose you could argue Texas is too. For me, true. I do think Texas's annual opponents are certainly, they all qualify as actual rivals. Like this is what I would definitely call a rival schedule. Bring in some of that old Southwest Conference back, obviously. But yeah, Missouri, it's kind of weird. The only thing I could say is, where else would you put them, right? Like I think that's kind of the question. The way that everything else panned out, I think Missouri almost feels like an afterthought here. Now, again, I know that they obviously were Big 12, right? They were Big 12 with A&M, OU, and Texas in the early days of the Big 12. So maybe there's a little bit, there's some history there. It's not starting something completely fresh. I think they're kind of leaning on that. But yeah, it's kind of a weird setup. There were a couple other ones that jumped out at me.
Okay.
Looking at A&M, of course, we mentioned Missouri, obviously Texas. LSU is their other matchup. And I feel like that's a good look. I know the Tigers want to say, oh, it's not a rivalry, but I don't know. I think you could almost argue it's turning into that. We know A&M obviously printed the cups and that whole crazy, however, 11 billion overtime game that they had was one for the ages. But there's a little chippiness between these two. And realistically, LSU and A&M are close to each other, right? Just like LSU and Texas are. So I get it. I like it. I think it's cool for the Aggies. I think that's a good setup for LSU. But also a little surprised with LSU not playing Alabama. Did you see that? They don't have, yeah, I don't know.
Well, they may still play them. They just don't. They're just not going to play them every year, no matter what.
Yeah, and I saw a stat that I had somebody say, "Oh, that's not a real rivalry. LSU only cares because of the Saban thing," and I do think the Saban thing heated that up. But I wouldn't say that that's not a rivalry. I think that happened way before the Saban stuff. They've
been two of the biggest dogs in the SEC and have gone head to head for national championship. Like, it doesn't get more heated than that.
Right. And on top of that, too, LSU and Bama have been playing annually since 1964. So you can argue there's history there. So that felt a little weird to me to see. Rocky, who do you think got it easiest, and who do you think has the hardest slate of annual opponents for the SEC?
We're not supposed to say it's easy because every team can rise up or rise, that's supposed to be a gauntlet, right? I feel like everyone has a really, really tough Georgia, Alabama, Texas, something like that. And then someone has a team that rises up and is competitive, like an Ole Miss and A&M, those kind of teams. And then everyone has like an Auburn or an Arkansas. So I feel like they're pretty balanced. Of course, like I just said, anybody can rise up and beat anybody any day. But I feel like maybe, that's tough because each person has a really competitive team. I guess if I had to pick anyone, I would say Missouri, because Aggies are up and down. They're really solid right now, but they've been 8-4 many, many years in a row. Oklahoma's been struggling, and now we'll get to it, but they lost their quarterback. And then Arkansas might be firing their coach any day now. So maybe if I had to pick I don't know, but A&M and OU are still tough. So I don't know. I guess nobody really has an easy ride.
Yeah, look, okay, we'll take off that easy ride. If we're looking at recency bias here, I got to look at Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee has got Alabama. Now, I know that is crazy for me to say, oh, that's an easy, air quote, easy game. But the way they're trending, that Tennessee's lineup with Alabama, Kentucky, and Vandy doesn't look nearly as daunting as that might have, a few years ago with Saban at the helm.
Right.
Flip it with Kentucky too. Again, recency bias playing in here for sure, but they've got Florida, Tennessee, and South Carolina. So right now in this moment, that feels like maybe the squishiest of annual opponents at this moment in time. Obviously we know the SEC, like you pointed out, up and down. Anybody can step up at any moment. Ole Miss also, with Mississippi State, LSU, and OU. LSU's tough, but Mississippi State, are they coming back? We'll talk about that as we get a little closer to that game for Texas too. And OU, right? Like historically, really solid program. They've won plenty of natties. They historically recruit really well. Maybe not quite where they're used to being at this point, but yeah, it's just an interesting thing to look at. And again, I don't envy the people that have to make these kind of schedules, because this feels like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. Nobody's going to be 100% perfect. CB, you said you understand Arkansas, but you'd rather LSU over Arkansas. I respect that take. I get it. And I think LSU is going to be fun for Texas, but I really like Texas's lineup. Again, those historic rivalries coming back. And, Arky's vitriolic, that's for sure. But I would argue they're one of the few teams that I would say is actually a rival with Texas, and Texas fans would say that, so I don't know. I like how it plays out.
I thought it was pretty funny. Like we see Oklahoma got Missouri, Texas, of course, and Ole Miss. And Lane Kiffin had a comment, for the coach of Ole Miss, of course, said, Oklahoma is really disappointing. We don't have anything in common with them or our fans. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So that's unfortunate with so many great teams that we've played for a long time, especially from our SEC West. So that's unfortunate. He was said it was unfortunate to be linked up with OU.
I mean, can relate, buddy. Trust. We understand that. But a little bit of shade there from Kiffin, just straight up saying
that was pretty funny.
We're used to playing good schools, and here we are stuck with OU. That's a maybe thinly veiled insult right there.
Lane Kiffin is great for a soundbite. Now looking at it, when you talk about recency bias, Auburn might have one of the toughest. Alabama, Georgia, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is no joke right now. Yeah, they are coming into a hot season so far. So Auburn will have their hands full. Well, Diego Pavia still won't be there, but maybe they take that wave and find another JUCO quarterback to turn into a monster like Pavia. But actually, he might even be back another year. Didn't he win another court case? We'll see. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. Well, and Rocky, to your point, we talked about this a little bit on last week's episode, but the landscape of college football has changed, right? With the transfer portal and with NIL, there's a lot more movement amongst players. I would argue there's more parity in college football right now than there has been in a very long time. We know the haves still have, but the historic have-nots are certainly able to make splashes here and there. And I think Vandy's a good example of that, right? Like they were really smart with how they recruited, how they pulled guys in, who they looked after, who they pulled in from the portal. And, we know Vandy was a baseball school for a long time, but there's a little bit of excitement for football for them recently. So.
A lot of excitement. All right. So let's kind of look now, Megan, at the so they released this a few days ago, and then last week, and then they gave us this, which is the full slate for each school. And we'll just look at Texas first. Let me make sure it's balanced on the page so we can actually read this tiny writing, because, they put white print on orange blocks of, how they do.
I do.
You know how they do. So we can't actually read it. I'll zoom in one at a time. That will help. Here's 2026. Next year, Megan, at Tennessee, at LSU, and even at Missouri, if that's at night. So that's serious business.
Again, that's a vitriolic place to play. It really is.
Texas A&M.
Yeah. No, and I like how they broke this down for those that are watching right now or have seen the graphic. The way that they break it down is that first line is, of course, what we just talked about, those annual SEC rivals. Yep. Then you have the home slate on the next line, the home slate for SEC, and then the away slate. So, of course, this isn't indicating scheduling, timing wise, anything like that. That's just how they broke this down in this graphic to show it. So, Texas and OU, of course, with that neutral site every year in Dallas. For as much as we are pissing and moaning about the quality of our schedule and how things played out this year, man, 2026 ain't no joke. You got Arkansas on the slate again, at A&M, like you mentioned. Of course, Oklahoma. That's always a dogfight, no matter who's good or who's bad. But Florida at home, Mississippi State at home, Ole Miss at home. Okay. But at LSU, at Missouri, those road games are tough, man. Going into Knoxville, going into Death Valley, going into Columbia, like that's a tough slate. That's a tough away slate.
I heard Texas has never played at Tennessee. This will be the first time. Like they played in the Cotton Bowl, but never at Tennessee. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
And then the following year, we're back at Alabama. South Carolina is going to be fun going into South Carolina. And then at home, look at this. That's a pretty good lineup at home. A&M, Auburn, Georgia, and Kentucky in 27 at home. Missouri, 2028, 2029. We get to go back to Georgia again in 4 years, but Georgia comes to us in 2 years. And then we have that flip again with LSU, Missouri. It seems like they're taking now 2 years to return some of these away games. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. And the observant fan will notice in 2026. So we have Arkansas here this year, right? Like they're, I think if I recall correctly, they're our first game back. No, they're our second game in November, but
they're in November.
But then in 2026, we get Arkansas back at DKR. And for those wondering about that, that's because if you guys recall, when we went to Arkansas back in Sark's first year, they were supposed to come to Austin the year after that, but with the SEC announcement, and then I think they backed out and changed the schedule. So this is making right for that.
The 2 trips Texas took. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we're going to get Arkansas 2 years in a row there. So pretty interesting. I mean, I like it. I don't see anything that I'm mad about. Now, look, ask me halfway through that 2026 season. Maybe I'm going to be fussing and saying, man, this is just a hell of a run. This is tough, but I like how this lines up. And if we're going to slap our chests and talk about Texas swagger and be the big dogs in the SEC, you got to play like this. So I like it.
CB says, I think they messed up not letting Arch play in Oxford. Yeah, they missed out on a huge 2 weeks of ESPN 24/7 talking about going back into Mississippi. Yeah, but going into Tennessee, that's still Manning territory. There's
at
plenty
LSU.
of hype. Yeah, at LSU, beating the state of Louisiana. Yeah, there's plenty to talk about, right? Their heads might explode if we also went into Ole Miss with Arch Manning. Okay, Megan. Anything else from the schedules releasing that has you excited or anything else?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of it. I like it. I think it's good for Texas. I think it's good for football, good for the SEC. Again, let's circle back in about a year, halfway through the season, and I'll let you know how worn out I am at that point.
Yeah, I like this. I guess the schedule had been released, and then within 12 seconds, our friend Adam messaged me, when you're making plans for Tennessee and LSU, blah, 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 let me know. And I'm like, that's a year from now. But then I remember when we were supposed to have gone to LSU last time, which ended up being the COVID cancellation. Everything was booked a year in advance. And then what I had booked, it was an Airbnb, and they realized that, it's the Texas weekend. And she tried to triple the price on me and canceled my reservation. And then, you know what? Karma got her because all the reservations got canceled. So.
Yep. Yeah,
that was rude of her. Anyway.
Yeah, man, that shouldn't be allowed. Sorry that I'm better at scheduling than you are.
Yeah,
but I really wish that Airbnb had something against like last minute cancellation on the host part because they didn't think.
Especially when the notes absolutely say, "Sorry, didn't realize it was this weekend where I'm supposed to triple the prices."
Right.
I mean,
didn't realize I was supposed to be price gouging you this weekend. My bad.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I understand supply and demand, all that, but once I've already booked and paid, then you
Right.
say cancel me. Anyway, that was a long time ago. Moving on. The point is, got to plan ahead for all these
Absolutely.
games, right? All these games. Okay, Megan, Texas volleyball on right now. I'm going to check the score in a second, but let's talk about volleyball really quickly. We're going to kind of do a few minutes around the 40 things that are happening around the 40 acres. The biggest thing right now is Texas volleyball. They're still ranked number 2 because Nebraska's so amazing. But last time we were on the show last Wednesday, they were playing, and when we were kind of following the score as they beat, is it Baylor, TCU, CCU, right? They're playing TCU.
Yeah, it was TCU.
Yeah, and they swept TCU at Gregory. They get to stay home. They're back at Gregory tonight, but tonight they start SEC play against Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Again, it's been really, really fun watching this team come together. Young team for sure. But you can tell they love each other. They're playing really well together. I mean, it really is impressive how well this team has gelled, especially considering how many young pieces they have. Of course, we know that Spears is looking like she may be a lock for freshman of the year. She's had, I believe, freshman of the game for the past, I want to say it's like, I mean, she's had a lot of accolades, and in the past 4 weeks, I believe she's been freshman of the week every time. So right. I don't know, man. Again, early, still a lot of volleyball left to be played, but watching her is impressive. I mean, she's putting up numbers. It's absolutely crazy.
All right, so Vanderbilt is here in Texas for the weekend. Well, for this week, late week. So they're playing tonight. They have losses to Kansas, Illinois, Minnesota, Cal, and UC Santa Barbara. So they've accumulated some losses. They actually have a losing record. I think it's 4-5 or something like that. So they stay in Austin tonight, and then they have to go play at the Aggies Friday night. So I guess knock the 2 Texas games out while you're here. So they have a rough road because we know the Aggies have a solid volleyball team. They gave Texas that big L last year. And then for Texas, they play tonight. I'm going to check the score. It's at commercial break right now. And then they get to stay at home tonight. And this Friday night, they have Missouri. So they also have these back-to-back games, pretty grueling. And then they're off till next Wednesday. So yeah. Good job, ladies. I'll check the score in a second and let you know. All right. So, Megan, again, UT Austin, number 1 in the state of Texas. We know we're kind of used to it being
little spoiled.
Sorry, I'm good. I keep saying this is my last day coughing, and then I still cough. All right, so let's look at this. But this is what surprised me. Yes, we know they're the number 1 public university in Texas. UT Austin posted this. They have 32 programs ranked number 1 in Texas, 76 programs top 10 nationally. But this really surprised me. I was pleasantly surprised. Number 1 university in Texas for veterans.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool when you consider the school down the road that thinks they're all about the veterans? I wonder what we're doing more for them that makes us the number 1 university for veterans. I mean, the stuff that I've seen over the years, how, accessible classes, they help with, they work with you to make sure your tuition is funded through all your veterans benefits. Housing is, they have more accessible housing for, non-traditional students. All those things go into helping the veterans make sure they get degrees, help them get back to school. But I was really surprised and happily surprised to see University of Texas number 1 for veterans.
Yeah, that's really cool. Number 1 in Texas. That's very cool. Something to brag about for sure.
That is. I love that. I love seeing that because it's always good. Take care of them. Take care of the veterans, help them get the education. Okay, so Megan, this is something I want to tell you about. So remember, like we talked about earlier, this tomorrow night I'm headed to the Rugby World Cup. But there's really, really, really good rugby right here in Texas. So UT Women's Rugby, I was a part of that program for a long time. They are, okay, this is getting kind of exciting, Megan. They just beat up on UNT last week, 96-7. I don't know how they gave 7 points. I'm so disappointed. 96-7. And then they just beat the brakes off the Aggies, the Longhorns women's rugby team, 57-0.
That's insane.
57-0. And the Aggies for a long time, I don't know how long it's been, but for a long time, they were the dominant women's rugby program in Texas.
That's a So, Rocky, I want to say this, like for those that might not be as familiar with rugby as you are, which is basically like everybody, because you're so familiar with it. Break down the scoring in rugby, right? Because it's like we hear these numbers and you go, well, most people might not have a gauge of like how dominant that is.
So it's just like a football score. So you can get 3 points for a kick, and kicks can be live in play or penalty kicks. So it's just like similar to American football. So 3 points for a kick, and then instead of 6 points and a conversion 1 point like in football, it's 5 points for a try and 2 points for the conversion kick. So 5 and 2 instead of 6 and 1, and 3 points for penalty kicks or drop goals live game, right? So you can either score 3, 5, and then the 2. That's it. Like that's the combinations. But the crazy thing about it is it's just like football. Also, like the game can end 3-3 or it can end 65-55, right? Just depends on.
96-7 is an insane
96-7 is insane. That's like nobody ever wanted to tackle in that game. Okay, but the really cool thing, UTSA, Nadia's looking at playing rugby with them too. Like we're looking at all of them, right? They beat Texas State 67-0, and then they beat OU this past Saturday. Beat the Sooners 57-17. So crazy. Great games. That was at UTSA. The reason I bring this up is because in just a couple weekends, they're playing each other. And it's going to be a good game. UT women that could drop almost 100, UTSA that can drop almost 100 and shut everybody down. Oh, that's going to be so good. Like, oh, it's going to be good. So that's going to be it's like alumni weekend too. UT women's rugby alumni weekend in a few weekends. So that's going to be a fun weekend. And anyway, I'm excited about that. So congrats, ladies. All this good women's rugby right here in Texas.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Stars coming up.
That's awesome.
Okay, so Texas won the first set, and they're up 3-0 in the second set.
That's awesome.
All right. Oh, CB said Marcus Spears is at the volleyball game in the video you sent. Oh,
he is. Yeah, right there. Hey, Spears.
Oh, okay, there it is. Nice.
I'm this guy. I have the updates going on the phone constantly.
Nice. All right.
Oh
no, Vanderbilt got a point. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's move on. Okay, we're making good time, Megan. We're actually like staying on time today. All right, let's talk some. I know. Usually we're like, oh, whatever. All right, let's talk some Texas football, Megan. We were both at the game. Let's first talk about the environment of the night game, because we were really pumped and excited to get back to a night game. Did you have a blast?
I did. Look, anytime Texas plays at night, DKR is just a different place. And that's not to say it's not fun during the day, right? During those 11 games or the 2:30 games, but there is just a different vibe at DKR. You got the lights going, you got the smoke show, you got the fireworks that actually show up at night, right? And of course, we are now spoiled Texas fans getting that drone show every time. We are expecting a drone show every time. And I got to say, I know there were some people that have fussed about it. We've talked about placement of that drone show, and I saw a couple of people complaining. I know in the past, Texas has placed 2 drone shows at one night, one over the east side and then one over the north end, so that essentially the whole stadium can see at least a piece of the show itself. But that was not the case this time. They actually moved the drone show again, still on the east side, but it was a little bit farther south because they have to now. I think the FAA regulated that they need to run the drone shows over Mike Myers Stadium, over the empty soccer stadium. So that's what happened there. Really cool drone show. Of course, we got our huge hook 'em, the Texas fight. I really like this time that they had the Texcalibur, right? Like the sword, the turnover sword. So cool.
Yeah.
And the actual deflated football, like running down the sword. I thought that was awesome. And then you got hook 'em in a convertible. So that was fun. But yeah, man, I got to say, shout out to one of my dear friends, Jim Thrasher. If you're a Texas fan, you may see him around. He always gives his very insightful thoughts. He's a great storyteller. He's just a true Texas fan. But he did actually go to Sam Houston. So I had him and his wife and his family to the tailgate, and then he and his wife sat with us at our seats this time. So he was rocking both of it. He had his Sam Houston State stuff on, his shirt, of course, his Longhorn hat, and the whole time he's like, "Look, this is going to be a massacre." And I was trying to be kind, right? Trying to be, I try not to rub it in too much. He was like, "I don't know what you're doing. Just rub it in. We know what's happening here." So a lot of fun there. But I just, all of this to say, Jim hadn't been to a Texas game. He lived in the Pacific Northwest for a while, and he's back in Texas now, but he hadn't been to a Texas game in person since '05. And just hearing him talk about how much the game day atmosphere has changed and how much, everything is just tenfold and crazy. He said it was so much fun. They did Bevo Boulevard, and they went tailgating, and they checked out Smokies Midway, and they got into the stadium early and did all this stuff. And he said this was just, he said, I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I don't know how, but somehow this exceeded all of my crazy high expectations. So
Wow.
I thought that was cool, getting a perspective from someone that hadn't been in a little bit, just how much everything has changed. Because it's a lot of fun. Rocky, what did you think? Was the stadium rocking? Was it up to DKR standards at night? What did you think?
Night games are so fun. When you mentioned the drone show, I posted a video of the 2-minute drone show. But when the Texcalibur, they call it the Texcalibur, the sword with the, whenever they get a turnover, interception, whatever, they
turnover
put
sword,
it on the sword. Well, they had already had that interception, the Jelani McDonald fly from the sky interception, which we'll talk about. So one of the players, I saw him holding up the sword with the ball on it, like, yeah, because usually to give the defense that kind of love in that moment with the drone show was so cool, like to show their Texcalibur sword, their turnover sword. That was pretty cool. Lately, when they get a turnover, get any turnover, all the defense runs to cheer with Bevo. And I was so there's a couple and their son behind us, and their son, they live in California, and they were visiting. Their son just got into Texas, and he's a freshman, so they were down visiting. This was their first ever Texas game, and they were having a blast. Like they were so impressed with the thing. And I said, watch, when they get a turnover, they're all going to run to Bevo. But then the turnover happened right before halftime, and they all went inside. I'm like, sorry, they didn't all run to Bevo.
Sorry, y'all, my bad.
Sorry. Anyway,
yeah,
so let's go ahead.
Just before we move on with the Texcalibur thing, I want to send this or pull it up, but I am quite certain if I try to do this, I'm going to booger something up. Let me try here.
All the time, so go ahead.
Yeah. Again, it's not going to let me open it because it's a live photo. But when I went to check out the Third and Longhorn live show at Schultz's Garden, the guy had, sorry for this like very rudimentary way of sharing this, but Texcalibur was there. So it was very cool to be able to like pick it up. That thing is hefty, and it does have
very heavy.
Yeah, and I mean it's not like an actual like Ren Fair sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is sharp enough. Like it's made out of aluminum, I believe, but it's still got weight to it because they carry it. You don't want that thing just flying anywhere. And it is quite sharp because they are actually puncturing the balls to put them on the sword. So it was cool. It was just neat to hold it and be like, oh, so this is the thing. It's pretty awesome. So it was just a nice little tie in there.
Yes, CB, we have to mention the mariachis because they're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. They had a full mariachi band, and also on the floor, on the stadium ground, they had at one end of the field they had the full ballet folklorico, and they performed on one side, and then later in the game they came out and performed again, and they performed on the other side, and it was so beautiful, and the crowd loved it. I know
it was
last
awesome.
year there were poo-poo people who were not happy about the mariachis, but you know what? Everybody loved the mariachis this year, and when they came out again, they got an even bigger applause. So that was great. It was so beautiful, and it was really nice. So congrats, Texas, good job, including everyone. All right, so Megan, let's get into kind of overall where Texas stands now, like where their stats are as a team, and then we can kind of break down defense, offense. Go ahead.
Yeah. Before we jump into that, because I want to get into the nitty gritty. How did Texas fare after this and all that? But before we dive into those, like looking at the stats, looking at where Texas landed, I just want to ask you, how did you feel coming out? Because we talk about that. We talk about the atmosphere. We talk about our mood. We talk about some insights and looking at little things that maybe we pick up on that others might not typically, or different takes. I want to know how you felt leaving DKR after the Sam Houston game.
I'll just say going in, my mentality is because of the competition, a winless team.
Mm-hmm.
we are not going to know if Texas is a great team, but we will know if we're a really bad team.
Yeah,
I
no,
felt
that's
that way
fair.
going in. I felt that
Yeah.
way going in. I know we're not a really bad team, but we will know if there's big struggle. If we're on the struggle bus, we will know after this game. We won't know if we're riding the Lamborghinis yet, but we will know if we're on that struggle bus. And so leaving that game, I knew we were not on the struggle bus. I'm not saying Texas is going to win everything because they still have a lot of things to fix, even against Sam Houston State. There's still things to fix, but I felt happy for them is my biggest thing. I felt happy for the players. I felt happy that the crowd was cheering for them. I felt happy that they were building confidence. That's what this whole 3 weeks was supposed to all be about. Building confidence, getting lots of young players, good playing time, getting momentum going into the offseason and being healthy. So even though Texas kind of took this kind of road to get there, at the end of the day, the goal was to be going into SEC play healthy. And Sark said everyone should be back, right? They expect a full roster coming back, minus Kojo, who was injured before the season, they expect everyone to be back. Tons of players got to play, really legit snaps on offense and defense. And we feel good. They should have confidence that things are starting to connect that weren't connecting against air. Right. So that because that's what I was hoping to see. I felt good for them. I don't feel like yet no team is finished in September, right? But
You're not claiming the natty yet. You're not claiming the
no. I still had to taper back my season expectations after the last couple weeks, and I still see 2 to 3 losses now because there's still holes on this team, but I feel better than I did a couple weeks ago.
That's fair.
How did you feel, Megan?
That
was a long way of saying I feel better.
I felt better. Like, no, look, I like it. And I echo a lot of what you're saying. I think for me, I was just really happy. And look, I hear all the chatter. I hear all the people in the opposing fan bases say, oh, it's Sam Houston State. Who cares? Like a stiff wind could have beat Sam Houston State. Doesn't matter, man. They're still D1 athletes. And for all of these people getting this wrong, Sam Houston is FBS.
Yes, they are
no longer FCS. So
Texas does not play FCS teams.
Calm it down with that narrative, right? Look, and again, we knew who Sam Houston was going into this. We knew the competition was not going to be, certainly not on SEC competition levels, right? This is probably one of the, and I hate to use an insulting word like easy, but probably one of the lower expectations as far as opponents go, right? Like for all intents and purposes, this was,
there's a reason they were 40-point favorites, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, to be fair, Texas has not beat the spread until this point. So what I felt, I was just happy. It felt good to win. But what I was reacting to more, and we talked about this on our show, people kind of rolled their eyes sometimes. But look, Texas needed to go out and have fun playing the game of football. And I felt like they did that. I felt like we saw Arch get his swagger back. We saw the wide receivers almost breathe a sigh of relief, but they were playing harder too, right? Like it just felt like this weight was lifted off the team's shoulders, and they were able to go out and like sling the ball around, have a good time, make those connections again, and go, oh yeah, shit, we forgot this game's supposed to be fun, right? Take some of those expectations and that pressure that they had been applying to themselves, take some of that off their shoulders, and just they went out and they had fun, and you could see it in the play. It wasn't just the better throws. It wasn't just the connections. I mean, again, the wide receivers were running better routes. They were more physical than they had been. Yes, I know, guys. We understand all of this is with the caveat that it's up against Sam Houston State. I got it. But the route running itself was better, right? Like they were going in and they were looking for contact. They were coming back to the ball. They were helping Arch out. And to your point, you brought this up a little bit earlier. Sark had mentioned 75 guys got to play in this game alone. That's an insane number. That's exactly
more than they can even travel with to Florida.
Yeah, exactly. So literally everybody that is going to be playing at Florida or traveling to Florida, not playing necessarily, but everybody that's traveling to Florida got to play in this game, right? If they weren't injured. So hell yeah, like I thought that was a really good confidence booster for Texas. Now what I'm hoping to see, and I think we will see, yeah, we got off to a rocky start, but this to me felt like a really good stepping stone. It's a building block, right? Little later in the season, little later in that 3-game run of lesser competition than perhaps we wanted to see. But this to me cleared a lot of those mental barriers that I think has been plaguing Texas so far this season. So I'd like to see that be the building block and the foundation as Texas rests up in this bye week, gets healthy, gets, again, more time to get your head right? Like the kids are going to be allowed to go home if they have the time. You spend some time with family, maybe get some home cooked meals, and then come back on Sunday. So I think the combination of this game where they could play loose and easy and free against Sam Houston State, and then this next weekend where they'll get some family time, they'll get some home time, they'll get some like downtime to get healthy, to get their heads, keep their heads right, and then start into SEC play. I was really excited about that. I felt good. I felt real good.
All right, remember this, Megan?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is what I've been waiting for. Spent 2 years not playing, so might as well go have some fun, right?
We've been saying it every week. Go have some fun. And let me tell you, they were pumped up. They were pumped up. Arch was loose. He's talking about this first game where he's actually put his headphones on, listened to some different music before the game. Like, you don't want to go and flip everything over and change your whole routine as if the whole routine was broken. But he shook a couple little things up. And before the game, I guess maybe, I don't know if I've not noticed him do this, but this is the time I noticed he was hopping around loose, jumping around, shaking around.
Rocky, that's exactly it.
So loose, physically, mentally loose, like ready to just.
He had not been doing that all season. Yeah, you're spot on. You know, we've been talking about this every week, week in, week out, since that first game. Texas hasn't come out this season so far with that fire, with that like looseness, with the just having fun, that confidence, like we know we're going to come in here and dominate. And we hadn't seen that until this weekend. So again, I don't care who the opponent is. I care that Texas got that like Texas swagger back, that little shimmy in their step back. Yeah. That's what I think is important for this team because, again, considering we've got a lot of young players, we've got Arch, who is developing. I don't care what anybody says. This is still his first season starting as the Texas quarterback. So he's got to keep that head right. He's got to get that. He's got to have swagger. We got to let Arch be Arch, right? And so seeing him go out, have fun. I'll even say this. I know this might be controversial or whatever, but watching Arch like stand over number 6 in the end zone, little bit Bush League, right? A little bit you go, oh God, man, come on. It's Sam Houston State, until you find out that 6 had been jawing at him earlier. Did the same thing a few plays earlier when Arch was on the ground. Number 6 made a good play, but he got up, walked over Arch, stared him down, and then was talking a little trash over Arch Manning. And then sure enough, a few plays later, to me, I love that response by Arch. I don't care if people thought it was the classiest thing or not. I want my quarterback to have confidence. I want him to have that swagger. And if he was retaliating and saying, hey, man, if you can give it, you can take it, right? I love that. And I thought that set that tone. I thought it was great.
Yeah, this was Arch Manning. He came off the field pumped up. He took his helmet off, like, yeah, let's go. You know, he was pumped up. And then, he and Sark have a very special, tight relationship, right? They've been together 3 years now, right? And when he came up and like gave Sark that little, let's go push, that little shove, everything, he went up and pushed his coach. Have you never played
context
any sport ever? Have you? He can go up and tell coach fuck you in the terrible moment of a game. Right. He was like, let's go, coach. This is what we like. You could feel it was like, this is what we've been talking about. Like, this is it. Like, the weight is coming off. It's not lifted. It was Sam Houston State. We know. But it still feels good for those connections. Like, let's just go ahead and get into some of the stuff that Arch was doing this weekend that hadn't been done yet because just things weren't going right. There's connections to Wingo that we've been waiting on. Two touchdowns to Wingo, huge connections, and especially because first he wasn't getting it to Wingo, and then when he was getting it to Wingo, Wingo was struggling to bring the ball in, and now it's clicking, it's coming together. Whatever was helping, and if this is nothing but just helping pump up their confidence and build up their confidence, we'll take it. The connection with DeAndre Moore, we know he was injured and coming back, and he ended up being graded as the highest graded Power 4 wide receiver within 98 whatever grade or something this by Pro Football Focus this week. So even not only did he come back, he outperformed every other wide receiver in the Power 4 this weekend in his grades. Fantastic. I thought you mentioned the stare down. Arjmani's mama didn't like that stare.
She didn't like it. And she shouldn't like it. I get that.
My thing is I understand the heat in the moment, the drama before, like you mentioned, number 6 before kind of gave it to him and he gave it back on that touchdown, hype moment, whatever. The same people that cheer on planting flags in other people's stadiums, or cheer on pegging at somebody on the sideline intentionally with a helmet. I mean, in the helmet with the ball, or even the Aggies who think it's ridiculous to ever front on Sam Houston.
Trying to escape, powers his way, and a touchdown.
Oh, is that Manziel walking all over somebody? He just everybody does it. Everybody does it.
Let me point
when
this out.
When they were FCS.
When they were FCS. Look,
when they were FCS.
We all know at Texas there is a different standard.
Yeah.
Right? Different standard. I think Texas fans, we say the standard is the standard. Inside the program, they say the standard is the standard. So Texas holds itself to a different standard as far as play and output goes. I get that. But also, there is a Texas standard among fans too, right? It's not always, good for thee isn't good for me, right? So we're going to see criticism. And I promise you, Rocky, the same people that were bitching about Arch not having fire, Arch not having that competition, Arch just Arch this, Arch that, they're the same ones fussing when he does show emotion and fire. Now, no, tamp that back, please. No. When I said I wanted to see emotion, I didn't mean that kind of emotion. Calm down. Listen, let the kid do his thing. Let him have his swagger. Hey, Big Chris, man, thanks for joining us. I did want to pull this up too. This is a really great point that you put in the chat. When we're talking about Arch, he was wearing the headphones as well. That was a first. Yeah. Again, there was just a different vibe in this game where that confidence is back, that trust is back, that they're just having fun again. And Arch is able to, like I said, you could see the weight of the world come off his shoulders. So again, for the umpteenth time now, we know it's Sam Houston State, but I do think that this felt like a solid foundation and a step forward. If for anything, the mentality, right? Defense holding him to a shutout, offense actually able to score. We scored in the red zone, y'all. We scored in the red zone. How crazy is that? Look, so
it will help with confidence for sure.
Absolutely.
Morale, if anything.
So Rocky, let me ask you this. As we kind of wrap this up, we know that we've got a bye week coming up. We know Florida, we'll talk about Florida and OU, some of the competition coming up, some injury updates in there. I want to ask you, what were some takeaways that you had from this game that you think will either help or hurt? All right, let's do both. What were some good takeaways you had from this game that you want Texas to build on and hope to see against Florida? And what were some things that you're still all right, give me one thing that you're a little hesitant on, and give me a few things that, heck yeah, let's build on it.
So I'm feeling real like everyone right now, and we should talk about this Jelani McDonald interception. Here, let's play it for you because I want to talk about the defense.
Alexa, disable gravity.
Turning off gravity. You are now free to float.
Jelani McDonald flies in the air, but what to me, even more than the crazy physical ability, that was right before halftime, right? And that was inches from being either a touchdown or an interception. Jelani McDonald made sure it was an interception.
Yeah.
To hold someone to 0 points is rare. It doesn't matter if you're playing an FCS team, FBS team, whatever, power, whatever, 4, group of 5, doesn't matter. It is rare to hold someone to 0 points.
Yeah.
No matter who they are.
Agreed.
It is hard to do. It doesn't happen very often. When Jelani McDonald went up and got that interception, and then the younger players are coming in, after halftime, what an inspiration and what a tone to set that this is our standard. We are not, they don't score on us. When
we don't
do
let
whatever
up.
we have to do, they
Right.
don't score on us. And,
Right.
when we get into SEC play and some of these teams are putting up 30, 40, 50 points a game, we'll talk about it when we preview this weekend. That people will score.
Yeah.
So people will score. So the thing about it is I trust this defense to give the offense time to get in the game. If they're struggling, they've given them time over the last few weeks, right? But when we get into the game, I trust them. Sark talked about that at the press conference too, that they didn't hang their heads, the defense, or get down on the offense. They knew it was coming and they stayed supporting each other. And what I took from this game and so far from the first 4 games is that Texas has an elite defense with strong leadership and the depth that young talent can come in and cover when they need to come in. But that first rotation throughout the starting 14, 15, 16, right? Wow. They're good. And when Sark said he had 15, 16 starters on defense, wow, he meant it. Like, yeah, they do.
Yeah, I love it. No, and you hit the nail on the head there. Defense is going to keep this Texas team in, no matter what game it's at. Looking at our schedule, looking ahead, no matter who we're playing, this defense gives Texas a chance no matter what. That's not to say this defense is going to win every game for Texas. The offense still has to get their collective shit together. They still have to play well. They still got to score points, right? But this Texas defense is elite, and it is good enough to keep Texas in any game we play, anyone in the nation. And I will say that hands down, not just the SEC. This Texas defense is good enough to go keep Texas in the game against anyone in the nation. So that's a great place to be for sure. You want to talk about the stats?
Yeah. So Horn Sports posted this right now. Points per game, Texas is second in the nation. Yes, they haven't played anyone elite, but who really has? There's only a couple of teams in the country who haven't played a couple of good games. Yards per play, first in the country. Yards per game, second in the country. They are top 2, 3, 4, 5 in a lot of these categories. They could force more turnovers. They're 35th in turnover margin, but overall they are playing at an elite level, and that should the defense should have a lot of confidence right now going into SEC play.
Yeah, agreed. So looking at a couple things there, if we have to nitpick
at
all, that's okay. If we have to nitpick at all in the graphic that you brought up, sack percentage, Texas is 55th. And turnover margin, Texas is 35th. Like you said, look, that is one thing I would like to see from this Texas defense. If I'm going to be overly critical of an elite defense, I would like to see a little bit more pressure on that quarterback, a little bit more like, let's get to him a little faster. Now, all that being said, Texas, again, while we're not playing, Ohio State, Texas hung, and they did well. The defense showed up for that game. The offense did not, and the defense still gave Texas a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the next 3 games when you're looking at San Jose, you're looking at UTEP, and you're looking at Sam Houston. Look, I understand those aren't prolific offenses, but there was an opportunity for Texas to pressure those quarterbacks. Now, UTEP especially, San Jose really, they were throwing the ball quickly. They threw the ball a lot. So I do understand if they get rid of the ball quick, it's a little harder to get to the quarterback. But I do think if Texas can apply a little bit more pressure on those quarterbacks, make sure that they're covering well, make it difficult for the quarterbacks to make decisions and throw the ball, then you're going to see you get that sack percentage up a little bit, you get that pressure up a little bit, then you'll see that turnover margin change as they're forcing quarterbacks into bad decisions. So again, if I'm going to be overly nitpicky about this really, really elite defense, that's one thing I would like to see change just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think too, they're not showing everything. The defense probably has way more complex
That's fair.
things
That's
and
fair.
and things that they're not going to show or roll out for Sam Houston State when they don't need to do that to still win 55-0. I'm sure they're saving a lot for, like especially the next 2 weeks. They were supposed to face they're supposed to face a Lagway and a healthy Mateer. Now they may be facing is he in a boot? Is he not in a boot? Is he full practicing? Is he not full practicing? Lagway and a Mateer that's probably not going to be there in 14, 18 days. So,
yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah, we will. So
the narrative.
I'm just saying, I don't think they're showing everything. They're saving things for higher competition.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I do think it's interesting. This is a thought that came up, a conversation that came up a little bit earlier this week. If Ohio State had been the second game of the season, maybe even the third game of the season, do you think that game goes different for Texas? Or do you think just right out of the bat, do you think the results would have been the same?
I don't know. It's hard to tell because they didn't get much confidence after their first game after Ohio State. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's always good to have a game under your belt and get those reps, but then Ohio State would have had those reps too. And look at the points they've been putting up since that first game.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows?
All right.
All right.
One thing that I took away, you talked about the defense for sure. One thing that I took away is, number one, having more in the game changed the entire fabric of this football game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It changes how the offense plays together. It changes how Arch sees things. So I cannot stress enough. Look, again, Texas is very fortunate. We've got so much talent. We're very deep in a lot of places. We expected Wingo to be the number one to go to. We've got, of course, we've seen Livingston step up. We've seen some flashes from a lot of the guys, but having more back in the game, to me, it was like a switch was flipped. And this Texas team, this offense was just clicking in ways that it hadn't before. So to me, that's really important. That was something, all right, we see it. Let's keep more healthy. Let's keep him in the game. Let's keep him there, because his success and Arch's, comfort with him really affected. It just had a blanket effect. It changed how everybody. Wingo was stepping up. Wingo, welcome to the season, Ryan Wingo. Good to see you, man. Great to have you here. It was awesome. Yeah. So to me, having more in was absolutely game changing for Texas. And so that's going to be really important moving forward. I was also really excited to see the depth that we had at running back. Of course, we've talked about James Simon before. I thought that we really saw Gibson do well, man. And that ball security, we know that's been a little bit of a question in the past, but he's looking good and he's running well. So I feel good about the running backs. I feel good that even when we get backs back, even when we get Wisner back in, and do not underestimate how much of a leader Wisner is for this team. So having him back is going to be critical as well. But even when we have those guys back, I still feel like we're going to see that ball spread around. I think Sark's going to have some fun with this offense, knowing that he's got a lot of weapons there. That's going to be hard to scheme for defenses. So I was really encouraged by that. And that's something I hope we build on as well.
I love it. All right. So let's take a final look at the scoreboard on the way out the door. It was 55-0. Texas, 264 rushing yards, 343 passing yards. I think half those rushing yards were Caldwell's breakaway. His little fake handoff, and he took off down the sideline. So 607 total yards of offense. Yes, we know it's Sam Houston State, but they held them to 122 yards. They didn't break 100 yards total offense until very late in the game. Time of possession, that's what you want to do. Control time possession. They had 9 extra minutes over Sam Houston State. They moved the ball, converted third downs, moved the ball, moved the chains. It was made field goals, which was really nice when they needed those points. They didn't need those points, but when they could take those points, they did. So I think they did overall fantastic job. It's still, we know it's Sam Houston State, but it's something to build on. When just a couple weeks ago, Arch was throwing the ball at people's feet or way over their heads, and got to get those yips out. If anything, it got the yips out, and he knows this is how we ball. Get back to his game, because we know we can throw the dang ball, right? Just for even if that just comes back, that'll be a really good feeling. So let's see. Right as of right now, Megan, when we look at the gauntlet of the SEC defense, Texas defense right now in scoring defense, number 4 in the country, but number 1 in the SEC, followed by Oklahoma, who we face in a couple weeks, LSU, Mississippi State. Let's find A&M with their defensive genius coach. 103. 103 scoring defense and the worst in the SEC. Oh, man.
Look,
I do think Georgia down at 39.
And both of these teams are going to be different at the end of this season. But if I'm Texas, I'm encouraged by that, right? I do think A&M and OU are both better teams this year than they were last year. We've talked about this as of last week. I'd argue it this week too, probably. A&M and OU are better teams than Texas right here in this exact moment right now, just based on what's on tape and based on who they've played. That being said, looking at stuff like this, there is nothing to worry about, Texas fans, right? Like, we got a long season to go. We got to see how the game, how the season plays out. But while Texas has had those offensive struggles, if this confidence is something that they can build on and get better and get better and get better each week, looking at A&M now, we'll see. A&M's defense is probably going to improve a little bit over the season too, but
might get much worse.
But right, exactly. But we're also going into SEC play now, right? So that is a harder stretch to try to improve your defensive numbers in. But if Texas can get things to click against A&M, you're not telling me that Texas won't have that chance. You're not telling me that and in Austin and a night game, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Again, a lot of football to play before we get there. Yep. But that's going to be a good game. All right, Rocky, before we move on, I do want to ask you one more thing.
Okay.
So we've talked about the positives. We've covered this pretty well. Again, next week, during our bye week, we will absolutely go in, do a deep dive into Florida, talk about that. But before we go into this next week of bye week, give me one concern that you had walking away from this game that you're like, oh, geez, we got to get, I'm a little worried about this. Give me one concern that you have from walking away here.
It's so hard to tell when you just had a complete running, passing, defensive, special teams performance. I could still do without 6-7 penalties at home. I could still do without that.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that. That worked out perfectly. Look at those sound effects. Look, I agreed. I know I'm the broken record, and I know I've been saying this week in and week out, and I'm sure people are tired of me saying it, but I'm tired of saying it, for God's sake. But 9 penalties for 70 yards against Sam Houston State, that is not going to get things done in the SEC. We have got to clean those penalties up. And we keep saying this week in and week out. We keep saying, oh, they have an opportunity to improve. Oh, they're going to get better. All right, now your runway is officially done. It's out. It's gone. You've taken off. There's no more, we're going into the SEC. There's no more opportunity to shoot yourselves in the foot over and over and over again and still be able to overcome it. So, those penalties, you got to get your head right. You got to get things in. And again, we're 4 games into the season now. We're a third of the way through.
4 games.
We're a third of the way through. So at some point, you can't keep blaming inexperience. You can't keep blaming, oh, these guys are young on this kind of thing. Yes, they are young. Yes, they're still learning to communicate. But getting your head right for penalties, not making silly mistakes and hurting your team in that way, I think we're getting far enough in the season now that I'm not super convinced that that's a thing that is going to be fixed week to week, right? This is starting to become a flaw in this team, a problem for this team, and it's going to come back and bite us at some point.
Yeah, he says you get what you emphasize, and he says he's emphasizing him, and they have decreased each week, but they are still too much, especially at home. All right. So quick Manning moment, Megan, and then we'll give a little love to our friend at Rockin' Diamond Ranch. So I just wanted to show this is a Manning moment, but it's actually a team moment. The players led by, including Arch Manning, it was DeAndre Moore, it was Parker Livingston, some other players. They went to the hospital to visit children. And I'm only going to play a little clip of this. This is Corey Mose put together. Corey Mose is always everywhere. They let him know, hey, I'm going here, and he has to run over to the hospital. So here
When
he
does
is.
he sleep?
I know. I'll play a little clip of them of Corey interviewing Arch about what he got out of going to visit the kids at the hospital.
Let's go. What's that? It's pink too.
Oh, it is pink. Yes. Can I high five you?
Yes, of course.
After dropping dimes on the field, Arch Manning was dropping off gifts to kids at Dale Children's Medical Center. Patients received iPads, backpacks, and some cool swag with some hugs there. Afterwards, Manning spoke about what inspired him to give back.
There was a guy who had to miss out on his senior year of football, and that kind of touched my heart because, once again, football is a huge part of my life, and really feel bad, and doing anything I can to help these guys is really special to me. I think these past few weeks I haven't been playing well, and I felt bad for myself, and coming here just puts everything in perspective, and these are the real heroes, so it was really special.
Aw.
They're the real heroes. It is special. It does help you put things in perspective, you know. It does. That's really special. And then I'm trying to post the other video, but we'll look at it later. Anyway, you can find the video on TikTok. But a lot of the players were there. And my first thought is, who gets a backpack and who gets an iPad? Can I get the iPad?
Rocky showing up at Dell Medical going, hey.
Wait a minute. Yeah, they said some gave backpacks and iPads. I'm like, that's two different things.
No, that's awesome though. Look, it's seeing those kids grin and seeing, what a big difference him showing up. And I love that. I love that he said, look, it puts everything in perspective. Like we've been talking, Rocky. It's a game. Football's a game, and to play at the level that Texas players do, to be on that level, it's a privilege. And yes, we want our players to take it serious. We want everything to be, super serious, and this is your life. But you go and visit, kids that are unable to walk and who have suffered, crazy ailments, and they're still smiling. They're still head up. Like it really does do your heart good. And I love that he has that perspective there.
Love it. What a good way to spend his time. Texas volleyball, 2-0, and they are up 10-6 in the third. All right, Megan, do you want to give a little love to Chuck?
Always.
And Rockin' Diamond Ranch?
Always, y'all. All right. So if you guys are looking for a lovely hill country getaway, please look no farther than the Rockin' Diamond Ranch, nestled on a beautiful 120 acres in the hill country, just near Johnson City. It's a quick drive to Austin or San Antonio. So if you've got any kind of plans in the area, just need a staycation, or you want to bring the family along, again, you got to check out the Rockin' Diamond Ranch. The property sleeps 14 people with one primary home and 2 fully furnished cabins. There's so much to do as well. There's wildlife watching, fishing, playing with the longhorns. You can feed them. You can razz them on the head. Gabe loves it. He thinks it's a lot of fun. And there's indoor and outdoor eating and cooking, of course. And like we mentioned, just 5 minutes from downtown Blanco with breweries, eateries, shopping, and so much more. With all this stuff happening around, don't pay those crazy Airbnb prices. Don't get that wacky host that cancels on you last minute. Rockin' Diamond Ranch isn't going to do that. You got to check them out. Book with our good friend Chuck Smith. Give him a call at 512-694-1969, or check him out online so you can see the property and more photos, and book at Rockin'. It's like rocking with no G. RockinDiamondSranch.com.
All right. Perfect timing. All right. Good job, Megan. Let's talk a little bit bigger college football. We broke down Texas and the game night atmosphere and what we're looking for them to take into the bye week. It is a bye week. Let's look at first kind of the shakeups from last week. And then we'll break down just a couple of the games and what really stood out to us over the weekend. The AP poll, big movements for a lot of people, a lot of teams. Miami jumping over Penn State and up to number 2 in the country for beating a bad Florida team. Okay. Like I know they have they beat Notre Dame to start the season, but Notre Dame also lost at home to Aggies. Anyway, but they're loving Miami right now. LSU jumps to 4. The biggest thing when I first saw that was OU all the way up to 7, and for beating an Auburn team who had beaten no one, and then the Aggies up to 9 on a bye week.
Yeah, look, I said it earlier in the program. I've said it a few weeks before. I said it last week. While I don't disagree that A&M and OU right now, here today, in this moment, in this second, are better teams than Texas, I understand this is going to be a little contradictory. I don't understand how you make the leaps this far ahead like they did this week. Again, A&M jumping above Texas when Texas beat the absolute brakes out of an opponent they were supposed to. Texas wins, what was it, 55-0? They put a 50 burger on them and held them scoreless. And A&M jumps Texas on their bye week. That feels like you got fired on your day off. Like that's it's that vibe to me, right? It'll
work itself out.
It will. And this right now to me feels like the jump both with OU and A&M and Texas moving down. That feels maybe like a response from the AP for not dropping Texas after the UTEP performance. So maybe this is a little retaliatory. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But I agree. Look, and we'll talk about this a little bit as we recap the week. But OU jumping that high to number 7. Again, I got my burnt orange glasses on here. I'll be the first person to say that. But winning in the way that they did with the help that they got, it hurts. It stings, right? So F it, let it fuel our fire. Like you said, Rocky, it doesn't matter till the end of the season, but man, that's a tough pill to swallow. That's for sure.
That surprised me that Texas, I have no problem with Texas barely hanging on in the top 10 because of the way they played the last couple weeks, but that still is an elite roster with the top defense. Aggies have the 103rd defense in the country, didn't play this week, and they jumped Texas. Whatever, it'll work itself out. Look at Texas Tech all the way up to 12, Vanderbilt up to 18. Look at Georgia Tech with the Fighting Blake Gideons on defense. Another good win for them. They're up to 16. SC's climbing. TCU's in the top 25. Notre Dame 1-2, and they still want to put them in the top 25.
So I think that's the thing I think confuses me a little bit. Like, I think A&M is getting a huge boost from beating Notre Dame at home, but Notre Dame is getting really, really punished for losing to A&M at home. Like, if A&M is truly a top 10, top 5 program, you wouldn't think that you would punish Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame's getting rewarded for losing to A&M at home because they are still in the top 25 when they are 1-2 and they lost at home.
Yeah, I don't know. This to me just, I don't know. It all, like you said, it'll work itself out, but
it'll work itself out.
I sure don't know how to take it. Indiana up to 11 too, by the way. That's one of the few.
They beat the snot out of Illinois.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. And that was when Rocky, I don't know if I told you, I've got an office, little pick'em group going on. And thanks to last weekend, I'm at 80%. All right. So I think that's pretty good. But Indiana was a big one. I was one of the few that chose Indiana over Illinois. I just, again, at home.
63-10.
Yeah.
63-10.
That was a proper butt whooping. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at the SEC had to put out an official statement, how bad. We'll start with the Auburn OU game because there's a lot to talk about. And then the aftermath of this game, right? The impact for OU's entire season now. So they had to put out a statement about the refereeing in their game, about the touchdown and the turnover and blah, 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 and how bad it was. I was kind of watching that game while getting ready to head to your tailgate, and we watched the end of it at the tailgate. But that fumble, scoop, and score was a fumble, scoop, and score all day, every day. They took those points away from Auburn, and that was the difference in the game. Did
I lose you? Nope, sorry.
Oh,
I'm
was
trying
just saying
to,
that was the difference in the game. That scoop and score that they took away, and then there was a no calls on pass interference that were just atrocious. Like people have made so many hilarious memes. Sooner Magic. Here he is dragging him to the ground, and the ball's not even there yet. How were these things not called in this game?
Look, my take on this is if you are in a position, if you are on the receiving end of a call so egregiously bad that the conference makes a public statement about it, you better just take that gift and shut the F up. Look, I get it. I'm not taking away that OU has improved this year, but, and again, we all hate to blame the refs, but that changed the game. The refs inserted themselves there, and it really did change the game.
Multiple times in this game.
And again, specifically with the fake substitution, like that is a blatantly illegal play.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're saying, oh, we told them we were going to do it. We got approved. I don't know that I buy that. And if you did, then the officiating was so bad that they didn't know their own rules and they allowed it, that you still benefited from that, right? Like you're practicing a play that is blatantly illegal, first and foremost. Then you tell them you're going to do something super illegal and you still get away with it. I don't want to hear you bragging about it afterwards. Just take the gift and shut the F up. Like, to me, that's how I take that. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow. We know that we like to grouse as fans in general about officiating, about things. But again, I'm just going back to the fact that the SEC released a public statement admitting that it was a problematic call and that it was the wrong call. Rocky, how many times have we wanted that from crazy Big 12 calls, right? Like when the official ran into
anything, but
yeah, like when the official ran into Charlie Strong and then flagged Charlie Strong.
Oh yeah, that was so blatant.
Right. To me, that's that level. That warranted a Big 12, like, our bad dog, right? But you didn't get it. So the fact that this was so egregious and so bad that the SEC was like, yeah, there's no way around this. We have to publicly address this. And they said, yep, we messed up. It was the wrong call. That's all we're going to say about that, right? Like, that's a pretty dang bad call. So it's frustrating, because it did. That's a game that matters in the SEC. It's a game that matters on a national level. So yeah, it's frustrating in that sense. But at this point, that's football, right? You deal with it, you move on.
Yeah, that was the story all Sunday and most of Monday until this news broke that Mateer actually suffered a thumb injury, and they were showing video that it probably happened in the first quarter, and because he hit helmets with a defensive player, his hand hit the helmet, and then they're saying he still played the rest of the game, so he still balled out and made enough plays. But now they're saying that he could miss 3 or more weeks. I've seen everyone say from 4 to 6 weeks, a month. There's all these words. OU said he'll be back later in the season. I wanted him to be at the OU game playing his best ball because I want no excuses. I want Texas to go toe-to-toe with Mateer. I always want Texas to go toe-to-toe with the best team. So the most hilarious thing about not his injury is not funny. The comments are all about Texas. This is a post about the Oklahoma quarterback suffering an injury, and you want no players to ever suffer any injuries. It's a player about him possibly missing significant time and coming into be, pretty notable Heisman talk career season. And all the comments are about Texas.
But in a game that was not against Texas.
Exactly. And the game was against Auburn. And well, Texas is getting their way. Texas is paying some. Texas is blah, blah, blah. This has nothing to do with Texas's injury.
Yeah.
Just
look,
like the whole game, all the OU fans have their horns down and they're playing Auburn.
yeah. Again, I feel for the kid. It sucks. I hope he's back in time, right? Like I don't know enough about the injury. Obviously, anytime a quarterback has his throwing hand hurt, that's a problem. You worry about getting that touch back. How long is recovery going to take?
And the thumb grips the ball. Like all your strength is in your thumb.
Everything's right there, right? The touch is there. Everything is there. So that is an unfortunate place to be injured. I hope that he is healthy and comes back. What I will say for OU, for anybody in this position, I'm not saying Texas wouldn't do the same thing. I do wonder if there's a little bit of, let's talk about the injury. Let's play it up. We know he has to have surgery. We got 3 weeks before Texas. Let's make it so that his starting ability against Texas is so unknowable. They're going to wait till the last minute, right? Because that, I don't want to argue that this is, I'm not saying this is an advantage for OU. But if I'm OU and the situation presents itself, you keep things close to the chest. Right? So Texas doesn't know how to scheme for it. The defense has to practice both for Mateer and for his backup.
17 days from, he has to fly to California for the surgery. 17 days for a thumb surgery
for
is
thumb
too soon. And even if they try to rush him back, I don't know who would do that, but if they try to rush it, you would. Even if they try to rush him back, he will barely be able to throw the ball.
I can't say that. I don't know how, again, surgeries are crazy nowadays. You see some players recover in a few days. You see some players, it takes months or a year. I'm not going to speculate on that. I don't know how severe the injury is. We know he has to have surgery.
Different things.
So all I'm saying is,
I would say 2 weeks is too soon.
Maybe, right? But if it's a small fracture, I don't know, those heal pretty quick, right? Like
ligament, he could still be in a cast in 2 weeks. We'll see.
But anyway, to the point, we hope him a fast and speedy recovery. Again, we always want to play everybody at their best. It's unfortunate that he got hurt in that game for sure.
Yes. But it's shock. It's just always, I don't understand how everybody runs to blame Texas for everything. All right. So the only reason we're going to mention Syracuse Clemson is because Clemson lost again. This time to Syracuse. Surprising, Jonte Cook was actually like the superstar of that game, former Longhorn who's now with Syracuse.
Good for him.
Clemson is down bad. Earlier last week, before this embarrassing home loss to Syracuse, Clemson coach Dabo Swinney, right? Sweeney, he says, what you gonna do? I brought all these wins, and what you gonna do? Like pretty much saying, what you gonna do? Fire me? I brought all these wins and all these championships, and he has. He won national championships, multiple ACC championships, like all these. But while the whole time he's talking, I'm just thinking, but what have you done for me lately? Like, it's all about the now.
You're not wrong. Look, and I think we've both been pretty clear. Dabo's not my favorite coach. I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that.
I don't want him to be fired because he has a family and whatever, but also, just like every other coach on the planet, you got to stay with the times.
You're kinder than me.
He's not staying with the times.
I don't disagree with that. And that's the thing. Like, after he talks about how ridiculous it is that the players are getting paid, he's
Match Point Texas coming up next. Sorry, go ahead.
After he talks about, like, he didn't want his players being paid and while he's making millions, it just feels, you're right, Rocky. It feels like he's been a little slower to adapt to the time. Now he finally has gotten on with the portal. He's finally maybe starting to turn on NIL. But to me, his comments go back to probably the core of why I don't care for him as a coach. Is like, man, I get it. Like, you probably have a longer leash at Clemson than most coaches have pretty much anywhere. But at the end of the day, your job is to win, especially at a program like Clemson, right? Like, there are the expectations there. And you are a coach that has won at Clemson. So you've got that leeway, you've got a little bit of leash there, but man, just to come out and blatantly be like, what are you going to do? Fire me? Like that kind of attitude, my brother, just like come in and say, this is not the standard that we expect. Whatever, give us coach speak. But to come out and basically you're taunting your board of regents, like you're challenging them to fire you or to not fire you. I don't know. That just seems like a real dumbass move in my point, in
All
my
right.
point of view.
Texas women sweep Vanderbilt. They are 1-0 in the SEC. All right. So the biggest thing is Clemson is now at the bottom of the ACC right now with losses to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. They also, remember, lost to start the season against LSU. So they are now 1-3. They next have a bye week, like Texas has a bye week, and then they go to North Carolina. North Carolina is awful. North Carolina,
Look, they might win that one.
This experiment, they're 2-2, but they look 0-4. They're 2-2, and this experiment with Belichick is starting off on the struggle bus, and we have Swinney Dabo going into Belichick, and that's going to be drama that week because
Battle of the hot seats, right? Like
some hot seat. All right, speaking of hot seat, Megan, you brought us right into the next one. Oklahoma State, they lost they've been on the struggle bus too. They lost at home to Tulsa, and it's been like 50 or 60 years since Tulsa, an in-state team, has beaten Oklahoma State. And this is the crazy thing. It's not that they couldn't move the ball. They had over 400 yards of offense, balanced between rushing and passing. They just couldn't score the ball. It was 12 possessions, 1 touchdown, 2 field goals. That's not going to do it at home. The defense did enough, holding the other team to 19 at home. You should be able to get 20 or more at home. They couldn't, and Gundy got fired.
Look, we were talking about long leashes earlier. We were talking about a lot of runway. Gundy had probably the most runway of any modern era coach. The man had been there for 20 plus years.
Over 20 years, yeah.
Look, that's a feat in today's day and age. That's a feat in and of itself. And I'm not disparaging what Gundy had done at Oklahoma State. He was always good for a soundbite, and he put together some teams that, he quite literally was doing more with less, right? Oklahoma State gave Texas fits quite often when we were in the Big 12. There's no question.
Oh, yeah. They took us to the wire lots of games.
Absolutely. There were games that Oklahoma State, even in our national championship era, right? That was a game that Texas had to come back, like the most prolific comeback in Texas history.
Oh, every game against Oklahoma State had to be a dramatic comeback.
It was always drama there, right?
Yeah, drama. And they were good for a long time.
They were good for a long time, but I think he's another one of those coaches that just wasn't changing with the times. And he again, I think Oklahoma State gave him more runway than most coaches would get in his position. But at the end of the day, you cannot lose to the Golden Hurricane. You can't lose to a team that sounds like a drink. What is it that everybody says against Rice? You can't lose to food, man. You can't lose to food. You can't lose to Tulsa at home. I don't care that it was 19-12. The absolute ineptitude from Oklahoma State, from their offense, period, was bad enough. But
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Then to get beat by Tulsa, I don't know. It's just that's a pretty fireable offense, and I get it.
Well, the problem is they were coming off 69-3 loss at Oregon. They were not competitive from the jump at Oregon. 69-3. This 12 points they scored at home, like it's just not going to cut it. Didn't look like they were in any direction. And I'm surprised. I'm surprised they went ahead. They said that they offered him to coach out the season, and he said he'd probably get fired. I'm sure that has to do with money and this and that and this and that. But they're going to, they're hosting Baylor this Saturday. Baylor's pretty good right now. They're hosting Baylor at home. I want to check in and see what's the crowd like, what's the mood like, what's the fight like in that team, like what's left of this team when their coach was. They have a schedule still coming up. They have They have Arizona, Houston, Tech, Kansas, who's really good, Kansas State, USF, and they finished the season with Iowa State. Like, that's still a tough schedule ahead for a team that's going to be, with an interim or something. Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
the drama now is the leading candidate OU's offensive coordinator Arbuckle, who came with Mateer. Is that their leading candidate? And if it is Mateer going to be with the Oklahoma State Cowboys next year?
I mean, listen, I think for Texas fans, that's the best possible outcome. How delightful would that be?
All right.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I do think that's interesting that they fired him early on in the season, right? Again, I just finished mentioning we're a third of the way through the season, so I guess it's not that early. And this is another, I think you see these like mid-season firings more and more because you got to get ahead of the portal. You got to get ahead of like what the plan is. Look at who you've got available. Look at who you're going to pull. So it's unfortunate. I will miss some of the Gundy commentary, I suppose, but it's definitely unfortunate for OSU. Rocky, who do you like? I mean, we've heard a lot of names floating around. We've heard Colin Klein, like you mentioned, Arbuckle is somebody. Who do you think is a good fit there?
I don't know who's a good fit there. Of all the other jobs, like side note, the other jobs that will probably be coming available this year, could Florida be coming available if things go south again this year? I mean, they cleaned it up at the end of last year, but that coach has been on the hot seat. If Arkansas becomes available, if there's other big schools that might become available. I don't know what. I don't know.
Are you seeing a little
I don't know where Oklahoma State is on the totem pole. Like, if you have a GJ Kinney or all these young hot coaches, the UTSA, what's his name? The UTSA coach was with Texas staff. Like, if you have these coaches that are always being considered for the next big Power 4 job, this great group of 5 coaches, there's always names, but I don't know how much. There might be better jobs opening up this year.
Yeah, I agree. When you mentioned Florida, in my mind, all of a sudden I had this little like wife swap scenario where Napier ends up somehow at Oklahoma State and Gundy ends up at Florida.
Gundy would not go to Florida. They would not take him at Florida. No, he needs to be coming off. They need an up and coming, hot, winning coach right now, not a guy he's still young. But Jeff Traylor, thank you. I couldn't think of it. Thank you. And Dougie B, hey, I'm glad the shirt worked out for you. You have your Manning shirt. Okay, so let's move on, Megan. Tech went into Utah and handled them 34-10. Florida
called the Tech game.
Yeah. Florida at Miami, big win for Miami. Florida's just down. Lagway's struggle bus. If they're going to do the same thing that Texas is doing, try to find their offensive rhythm and hope that they get a spark against Texas. Hopefully our defense does not let that happen. Nebraska, we thought Nebraska was going to have their big moment, and it was going to be proven that Michigan was a fluke.
They were close.
Michigan 30-27 in that game. And we have to mention Michigan State. There was the game that played so late in the night. I stayed up and watched it. You stayed up and watched it because you're a big Michigan State supporter. The story of that game was the injury. We have to talk about that.
And ejections.
Yeah, there were multiple injuries, but I don't know if you watched the game, you saw Wayne Matthews get speared by his just friendly fire, right? His own player. They're both coming into a tackle from 2 different sides. And his teammate, in the split seconds, doesn't, hits him in the head, spears him in the head on. His head goes back.
To be clear,
it was brutal.
They were both going for a tackle. And we're not going to.
That's what I said. They were both going for the tackle, coming from different sides. Can't see each other. Yeah.
We're not going to play it because it is.
No, we're not playing that.
It's rough. Yeah. It's rough. So that was one that, Rocky, and I brought this up with you. I talked about this. It is absolutely insane that there are football games that are starting at 11 p.m. Eastern time. Again, Michigan State is in the Eastern time zone. So for their players, they were kicking off this game at 11 p.m. their time, when NCAA rules dictate that they can't practice after 10 p.m. That to me feels like such.
Well, it's that classic Big Ten matchup at USC.
Right, the Iliad,
those kind
right?
of games should be 7
Look,
or 8 p.m.
Yeah, later kickoffs are fine. We understand Pacific time. I get it. I get how time zones work, but to me, this just illustrates, number one, how insane it is that West Coast teams are in the Big Ten, and number two, the hypocrisy of the NCAA to say, oh, you can't practice after this time because we're worried you're going to be fatigued and have injury. But it's totally cool to play a football game that kicks off at 11 p.m. and goes till almost 3 a.m. That's crazy. That game ended at 2:55 a.m. Eastern time. And I think there were a lot of injuries. We saw that gruesome injury. Now, again, I'm not saying the level of the injuries necessarily. Nobody can predict that. Nobody can say that. And what happened to him was awful. Like, his head snapping back, like he got carted off. He was immobile.
Yeah.
He really looked like he snapped his neck. And thank God he was reporting a few hours later, like he had the use of his extremities. He sent that tweet that you just put up on the screen that he's doing a bunch better. We don't have any reports beyond a bunch better, but we saw a number of injuries in that game. And I've got to think that playing that late and that much jet lag and time zone change, that had to affect the mentality of Michigan State. Again, USC won that game 45-31. Considering that Michigan State had an ejection for a questionable targeting call, very questionable targeting call, had multiple injuries. I think they had something like 6 guys out of that game that were injured in the game.
Oh, they were dropping.
They're dropping like flies. You just got to think they've got to look at things like that and say, we have to do different. We have to do something better than this, because you can't tell me, you can't speak out of one side of your mouth and say you're worried about player health and player safety, and then you've got kickoffs at 11 p.m. at night. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah. It was a crazy weekend. So the biggest stories, I guess, coming out affecting Texas is Lagway's confidence. Is his confidence shaking? Is he struggling? Is his offense going to get together with Florida? We know their defense is elite. They've been holding teams, to below their averages, but their defense has been solid and keeping them, just like Texas, doing enough to keep them in the game. And then teams pull away late when the defense is so fatigued. But we have Florida. Is Lagway in a boot? Is he not in a boot? Like, we don't know. We keep hearing different reports. And the other big story, Mateer, surgery on his hand, that will affect Texas the following week. If he's back, and at what level of health is he back by then? So those will be interesting stories that we need to keep an eye on.
Agreed. And I got to say, the Lagway thing, to me, I did see some funny posts about, all these quarterbacks are seeing that Texas defense, number 4 in the nation, and going, you know what? I feel like I'm hurt. But no, look, I think the Lagway
they're competitors who want to be there.
No doubt. I think the Lagway thing, the boot, feels a lot more precautionary than actual, like, considerable injury. Again, I don't know. I'm not a Florida insider, but it does seem like boots can be used quite often as a precautionary thing. I would expect to see Lagway play against Texas. Mateer, questionable. It really depends on how severe that thumb injury, what the nature of the thumb injury, number 1, and how severe it was, number 2, if he plays against Texas. So definitely a lot of question marks. We will dive into all of that next week for sure as we preview the Florida game. Rocky, let's couple more games to cover. What do we?
Let's kind of look ahead at the top games this weekend. There are so many games this weekend of 2 undefeated teams. We'll talk about those. Just to kind of mention, there is football Thursday night, Army, East Carolina, just if you want to watch Thursday night ball. Friday, there's a few good games, including ranked games. Florida State, still undefeated, goes into Virginia. That could be interesting. Virginia's 3-1. Florida State's 3-0. Virginia's averaging 45 points a game. Florida State 58 points a game.
Wild.
And they're both
turnaround.
Good.
Their turnaround's been wild.
Crazy. So Florida State favored by a touchdown at Virginia. Do you have any upset alert there? Any concerns for Florida State?
Not for Florida State. I look, I think Virginia is going to give them a good fight in the first half, but Florida State's just on a roll. I did not think I would be saying this at this point in this season about Florida State, but credit where it's due. They've really had a solid turnaround, and they're playing some really good football right now.
All right. Arizona State with only one loss has dropped out of the top 25. TCU's in the top 25 at 24. And Arizona State is still field goal favorites at home. That game's also Friday night. Saturday, USC with that win over Michigan State has moved up to number 21. Illinois with that 63-310 butt kicking by Indiana is down to number 23. Just so you know, Saturday morning, USC are touchdown favorites at Illinois. So I guess they're feeling pretty good about what USC is bringing. This is just an interesting game because it's like a really mixed match of two teams. 1-2, Notre Dame. They have one win and they're number 22 in the country. It makes no sense. Arkansas, 2-2. They play each other in Arkansas. Arkansas blew a 17-point lead to Memphis, right? They had a chance to win it and fumbled the ball at the end. Like that might just be how they wrap up their season, right?
Let me tell you, my little burnt orange heart was so happy when we watched that at the tailgate. Just watching them fumble it up and lose to Memphis made my soul smile. It was good.
They blew a 17-point lead.
They did. I will say this. I feel like this game, Notre Dame at Arkansas, I don't think Arkansas is a great team right now. I don't think Arkansas is going to have their coach by the end of this season. But I will say this feels a little bit like a last chance for Notre Dame to prove that they're actually worth the darn this year. While I understand it is Arkansas, that I just finished saying isn't a great team this year, Notre Dame only being favored by 4.5 at Arky against a questionable pig team. Look, man, I think if Notre Dame doesn't show up and really just like blow Arkansas out, you got to question the validity of Notre Dame this year. I think that's
especially coming off a national. I mean, they have a freshman quarterback. They're starting all over a lot of places, but they've recruited so well. All right. So afternoon games, these are huge. Some undefeated matchups. Number 1, Ohio State goes into Washington. The spread started at Ohio State 13.5, and it is down to Ohio State 7.5. And that is because Washington is now undefeated 3-0. People are feeling a little bit better about Washington's ability to hang. Maybe there's some money coming on the Washington side. Do you feel this is any upset alert, Ohio State at Washington?
No. Look, I do question the power of the Big Ten right now. I think the Big Ten is a super top heavy conference at this point. But I don't see the Huskies. Look, they don't have a generational quarterback right now at Washington, so I'm not taking the Huskies for anything. So, yeah, I think Ohio State comes in and clears that.
I think Washington is going to cover that 7.5, but Ohio State's going to find a way to win. This is a big cross-country game, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I think the Washington crowd will be there. It'll be a beautiful day, I'm sure. All right, so this is another big undefeated matchup. These are two 4-0 teams because they played early. So number 4, LSU at number 13, Ole Miss. LSU, we know they have that win against Clemson, Louisiana Tech, Florida, Southeast Louisiana. Garrett Nussmeier is about to hit 1,000 yards passing already in just a few games. Miss has wins against Georgia State, at Kentucky, Arkansas, Tulane. So their record is not as impressive. Well, I guess they're about the same. And they're still running that 2 QB system with Chambliss and Simmons. And they've split the passing attempts about 50-50, 52 to 60, 62 to 56. So they're really running a 2 QB system at Ole Miss. Crazy. Ole Miss is favored at home by 1.5 to LSU coming in. What do you think?
I think this is one of those, there's still a lot of questions surrounding LSU. Yes, they're number 4. But again, that Clemson win is looking less and less impressive as the season goes on.
Oh, yes.
That Florida win, again, we're not going to put a whole lot of water into that because Florida is Florida-ing right now. But again, this is another one of those games. For me, this is hard to predict because I feel like this is one of those games that Kiffin's going to coach his ass off and do something crazy. But this is where we really find out, is LSU the real deal? Are they able to go into what's going to be a raucous environment? Ole Miss and LSU, there ain't no love lost there. Let me tell you that just right off the bat. That is a rivalry. So LSU going in to Ole Miss, I think there's a lot going on. I'm still taking LSU in this one, and that's just because I feel like they're better than we think they are. But this is going to be close. This could go Ole Miss's way big. I think LSU wins by a little, touchdown or less, or Ole Miss blows out LSU. It's going to go one way or the other with this one.
I have LSU winning by 8 to 12 points.
You think it's a lot?
The reason I have that is because I feel like LSU has already been tested a little bit more. I know Clemson looks bad, but they have NFL talent all over that roster.
That's true.
They have players picked to go in the first round. Florida too, so they've played some more physical football already and have been tested on the road already. So I feel like LSU is going to go into Ole Miss and win that game. If it was a night environment, crazy night game, maybe I would lean Ole Miss. But in the daytime, I'll give it to LSU. Auburn coming off being robbed by the refs at the OU game. They go into Aggies, who've moved up to number 9 on their bye week. Aggies are favored by 6.5 at home. That should be a pretty good environment in the afternoon for the Aggies to get Auburn. They've had some back and forth over the last few years. Do you see the Aggies taking care of Auburn, or is Auburn coming in just with chip on their shoulder?
You know, I've been hot on the Aggies all year, and I think they're a good team. I think that matchup against Texas at the end of the year is going to be one for the ages. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't know, Rocky. I think Auburn's a little pissed here. I think they got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I think A&M might be coming in, flying high off that Notre Dame win, coming off a bye week. I'm on upset alert here. I'm going to take Auburn by like a field goal, maybe. Look, again, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe A&M comes through and shows that they're the real damn deal. But A&M always feels like they've got 1 or 2 or 7 silly losses in their back pocket. I think this is one that A&M's expected to win, but I think Auburn comes in. I'm taking Auburn in this game.
Okay. Auburn's defense is 32 in the country, total scoring defense. We talked about a minute ago. Aggies are 103. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I think that's what's going to keep it kind of lower scoring, but I think I still have the Aggies winning at home. I don't know if they cover 6.5, but I have them winning at home until they lose. It's
no, that's fair. That's fair. And again, this is one I teeter-totter on. But
Auburn, that game against OU could be one where it fires them Auburn up to come in on fire, or it's one of those games where OU beat you twice.
Yeah, that's
fair. Like you let it hang over your head. And all right, well, quickly we'll move on. 15, Tennessee goes to Mississippi State, and that Tennessee's favored by 7.5 at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is 4-0.
Who saw that coming? Not me.
Nobody. Nobody. And they have a ranked win over Arizona State, who's no longer ranked, but at the time they were ranked. So Tennessee's one loss is that barn burner against Georgia at home, 41-44. Anyway, so this is another undefeated matchup. Another one is number 6 Oregon at number 3 Penn State. And I think this might be a real decider of the playoffs, because we have a conference matchup with 2 people who could be hosting. And please knock off Penn State. Anybody, please knock off Penn State, because I do not want to go to Penn State in December. Okay. Yeah. So number 6 Oregon to number 3 Penn State. Penn State field goal favorites at home. Both teams. Oregon averaging 51 points a game. Penn State 41 points a game. Take the over, whatever it is. Take the over. Thoughts on this game?
I don't know. This is one that I feel like Oregon has been just on a tear. They have been ripping through teams like crazy. But I will say, I don't think a ton of their wins at this point look as impressive as they might have in the moment. So this is a real put up or shut up kind of game for Oregon. Again, I've mentioned this about at least one other game. This feels like a make or break show who your true colors are here. Penn State, I'm always a little leery of, but at home, ooh,
Night game
goodness.
too, 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, at home, night game. I think I'm taking Penn State in this one, Rocky. How about you?
Only because I feel like Penn State hasn't played anyone yet. They have wins against Nevada, FIU, and Villa something. It's not even Villanova. It's Villa. I don't even know what school that was. Anyway, I don't even feel like they have been tested enough. At least Oregon has played some Power 4 teams. I don't know. Yeah, I guess Penn
This
State
is a tough one. This is a tough
I
one.
know it's a tough one. I'm gonna go Oregon. I think, averaging 51 points a game. I think they'll do enough. I'm going to go Oregon on the road, upset Penn State. Last game, quickly, Megan. Number 17, Alabama at number 5, Georgia. Alabama 2-1 with that loss to Florida State to start the season. Their wins are against mighty ULM and Wisconsin, who's down bad right now. Georgia, their wins, Marshall, Austin P, and that good game at Tennessee. Who do you feel is a little more tested for this game? Georgia is at home, favored by 3.5.
Let me be very clear. I am not picking this based on who has been tested because
Okay.
I don't think either of these teams have been tested
Okay.
this year. I will say, if we have to put it in those terms, FSU is a better team this year than they have been in a long time. So I think, again, if you're weighting it, I think Alabama has had that test a little more than Georgia. That being said, I just don't think this Alabama team has the right mentality. We're just not seeing that tough Alabama mentality that we got so used to under Saban. And again, I don't like DeBoer. That's an impossible job. Following the man, being the guy after the man is a tough place to be. But that being said, again, Georgia, Alabama, there's a lot of heated fan base stuff going on there. I'm taking Georgia, and I think they cover. I think Georgia shows up for this and makes a statement in this game.
I agree with you on that one. All right, Megan, let's wrap up with the top story real quick. Well, first we got to say our NFL teams, we always got to check in with them. I thought our teams were going to go 0-4 this weekend again because
Rude.
Wait, let's explain why. Because my Titans lost, your Texans lost, and the Cowboys got embarrassed. And so then, statistically speaking, most people thought that the Lions going into Baltimore on a Monday night was going to be a challenge, especially after the way they looked against Green Bay. And all they did was kick the shit out of Baltimore, and it was so good. And we watched it together Monday night. So our teams went 1-3 this weekend.
Look, thank goodness for my Lions. Let me say this.
Thank goodness for your Lions.
First of all, I hope the rest of the country keeps hating on Detroit because that's just fuel to the fire. I didn't think Detroit was going to struggle against the Ravens, but I don't know that I predicted that crazy of a performance. The O-line was absolutely
the game was bigger than the score too, because Baltimore scored late to make it look better, but
look closer than it was.
Yeah.
That's right. This was an absolutely dominant performance you brought up Green Bay. It was an ugly loss for the Lions against a division rival, but I think that was a fluke. The way that Green Bay has been playing recently and the way the Lions look, again, those early season losses, that loss isn't going to mean anything when my Lions make it to the Super Bowl. I love it. I love how Detroit's looking. This team is tough. They're gritty. They're physical. They're playing for each other. It's all those things. We talk about culture with Texas, right? We talk about how the team and mentality and all that. But watching Detroit, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but Detroit is the team to model after right now. Those guys love each other. They are playing for the guy next to them and the guy behind them and the guy in front of them. They are a physical team. They're gritty. They got balls. And look, I showed you my shirt. It's one of my favorites now, and I love it deeply. It is a Detroit shirt that says 4th down and fuck it, because that is the Detroit mentality. I'm here for it. You dance with who brung you, right? And Detroit's been doing that so far, and it's been paying off. So let's keep it rolling. Super Bowl or nothing.
All right. Last bit, we'll share this little top story. This is top story sports news of the world. So there is this little island in Scotland. where they do stone skimming, and they have people come. There's no cars on this island. I guess they ferry or boat over, whatever. And they come over to this island, and the rules are you must have a naturally formed rock. And they have this little ring of truth that's 3 inches, and you have to fit your rock into the little 3 inches marker, right? And there's the judge. And I don't know, is this judge in a porta potty or?
I don't understand there is so much to digest in this photo.
Picture has so much happening. So apparently you must use a naturally found rock and skim it, and it has to bounce, 2 or 3 times, whatever the rules are, right? And people come all over once a year to this event that's hosted by the people who live on the island. Well, there was a massive scandal. Multiple people were kicked out, like disqualified because disqualified because look at these ads. What is this? How much should you walk to lose 30 pounds? This Fox 7 ads.
Girl, you've got ADHD.
Well, just scroll to the ad. Well, what happened was people got disqualified because they picked up big rocks and shaved them down.
I've never been so offended, Rocky.
Do they not value the sacred traditions?
Do they not respect the
rock skipping competition?
The sanctity of rock skipping has been blasphemed and shamed. And how dare these people who are wearing, I don't know, what is this? Dragon Ball Z wigs? I don't know what's happening. There is so much. Listen, for those of y'all that are listening on the podcast, there are men skipping rocks on a lake, but they're all crowded together. You don't see the water. They're all on the shore. There are 3 guys wearing what I would only assume is like a crazy Dragon Ball Z weird blonde, spiky, probably 2-foot spiky wigs, wearing white long sleeve shirts and black.
They're like on a team.
Overalls. And then there's a guy. Yeah, listen, I mean, good for them for being identifiable, right? Uniforms doing what they're supposed to do. You can easily tell who's on what team. But there's a guy with his pants down sitting in what looks like an outhouse with a wire going to it. But he's also wearing a neon, like, ski cap.
Everybody looks cold and miserable. And
I don't understand what's happening here. Like, while I am very deeply emotionally upset about the cheating in this clearly sacred competition, I still cannot wrap my head around what all is happening in this. Rocky, we got to post this on Fire the Cannon. This is crazy. This image.
It is the stone skimming. Okay, look at this stone skimming rocked by cheating scandal.
Wow. Points to that journalist. Nice headline there.
Anyway, that is the world sports.
Look, you can tell we're going into a bye week, y'all. We are very concerned about stone skimming scandals
in East Scotland. Fast. Anyway, I thought that was pretty good sports news because there's so much happening in this story.
The Scottish stone skimming scandal. Say that 10 times fast. That's what
Scottish stone skimming scandal.
I love it. All right, y'all. Well, we're ending on that high note. I hope that your stones are in order and properly polished and all natural. We appreciate y'all being here.
Don't be taking big stones and shaving them down.
No shaving your stones down, folks. Only natural stones here on Fire the Cannon. We appreciate y'all being here. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We are Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube. We are Fire the Cannon and the #1 on Instagram and Twitter, or X if you're a child. I'm always Twitter for life here. All right, y'all. We appreciate you. Like and subscribe. It helps us keep doing what we are doing. Until next week, where we talk about the upcoming game. Y'all enjoy the bye. I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon. Hook 'em.